The thinking mind is the greatest distraction to the now. Your thinking takes you out of present moment awareness. Your thoughts, you cogitate, you ruminate, you constantly think about analyzing situations and peoples and times and events. And thinking is an amazing thing. Albert Einstein, one of the most brilliant minds to ever walk the planet, who was one of the greatest thinkers in the world, said that imagination is more important than knowledge. I thought that was a clue, because here's the greatest thinker telling us to use our imagination. And the present moment lives in your imagination, because it takes your imagination to take you out of time and to separate yourself from this linear thinking and chronological time and physical time. And the thinking mind usually is the biggest distractor to the now. This brilliant teacher named Meister Eckhart, an ancient teacher, philosopher, had one of the best quotes about living in the present moment and the now. His quote reads, "Time is what keeps the light from reaching us. There's no greater obstacle to God than time." I just love that quote, because it tells you about life and how we continue to journey on this big blue marble, and life moves on and time moves on. But time is where we live most of our lives. We get caught up in doing instead of being. We get caught up in having to attain or compete with the Joneses, or to break up, the monotony of life by reaching for a cylinder or a drug or some type of distraction in our life, or food, or some excessive behavior to get us out of time. Time lives in a linear progression of our life, beginning, and we're born, we die. It's inevitable. It's life. The oak tree comes from the acorn, and then it eventually dies, and much time has passed, but ultimately the light is what we all reach for. The tree is always reaching up. The sun is above the earth. We're always trying to become higher. Our higher self lives in the domain of light, of levity, of abundance, of joy. Those feelings feel much different than the linear gravity-based time where you're on the earth, you're walking the planet, you're going to your job, you're in your car, you're at your computer, you're doing what you do, but it lives in time. So the biggest obstacle to God is time. And the light that you need to find is really a shift in consciousness. It's a shift in your focus. So the now has become an obsession of mine. It's become my passion. It's become my ultimate mission, to help people understand that the present moment is really the only time you have power. And the present moment doesn't live in time. So to focus on things that are outside of time usually breaks you out of time. So when you're in time, ultimately you're focused on usually a gravity of your situation, a gravity of the planet. You're walking, you're held to the earth by time, by steps, by chronological time, by calendars, by schedules, by the rising and setting of the sun, by the shapes of the moon and the different tides of time. But ultimately, when you live in time, you're bound by that time. The present moment has no time. The now has no time. There is just this moment. There is always now. So the book that I've written is called The Now-ist. The subtitle is Finding the Signs to Your Ultimate Desires in No Time. And this book has taught me, in the writing of this book and the experiencing of this book and the basically downloading this information that came through inspiration to my heart and onto the computer and hopefully into your hands soon in bookstores and online. It taught me how to live in the present moment in a more full, rich way. It taught me that when you can separate and float above time, and you can get out of the earthly gravity and the pulling of the day in, day out rigors of living, that the shift in consciousness you can experience is always in the room with you. At any given time, you can change your focus. You can take the power that has always been yours back when you focus intensely with your heart, with your imagination in time. You take that time and you imagine yourself above time, above the earth, above the planet. When I had my first experience, it's a satori. It's called a flash of enlightenment. In the Zen tradition, they call it a satori. And I was above the earth. I had an epiphany one day on the golf course, and it shook my world. And I found myself hovering above the planet. It seemed strange and simple, but it happened. My eyes were open, and I had this satori, this flash of enlightenment. I'm above the planet, and I'm out of time. I'm seeing the satellites pass me. I'm seeing the blue curve of the earth. I'm seeing the sun just crest the planet. I'm seeing stars in this deep black of space. And I'm looking from miles above the earth at my lower self on the planet. I'm floating. And in that experience, I'm free of time. And in my book, The Now-ist, the cover of the book is the symbol. The Now-ist symbol is the cover of the book. And as you read the book, you'll refer to that symbol many times, because that symbol is a series of prayers that teaches you about separating yourself from time, how to get in the present moment, how to float above your problems, how to be above the problems. When you're up in that space, what I call getting up there, I call it you're trusting your gut, G-U-T, getting up there. You gotta trust your gut. When you're above time, when you're above the planet, and you're seeing your higher self see your lower self. When you experience your higher self seeing your lower self on the planet, you're out of time. You're in this moment. Because imagine, use your imagination for a moment. What if you're above the planet right now? What if you closed your eyes and you saw yourself hovering above the planet? Could you really be stressed out about the bills that are due? Or about, a sickness you might have, or a friend's ailment, or the world problems and the wars and the hungers and the famine? If you're above the planet and your energy is high above the planet, you feel free. This is what happened to me. I felt myself above the planet. When I was up there, when I trusted my gut, when I really got up there, I was free of stress. I was free of time. That was this epiphany that I had came from that experience. And I saw myself down on earth, my physical self, my linear self, my time-bound self, walking on the planet. The higher self was up there, and it was totally in peace and relaxation. Had nothing to do. It had only to be done. There was nothing for me to do. I just had to be done. In that moment, my focus was just present moment awareness. The beautiful blackness of space, the peace, the silence. They say God's one and only voice is silence. I was in God's realm. I was in the silence. I was in the peace, and I was out of time. And I'm looking at my higher self is then looking at my lower self. And my lower self now is relaxing because I'm connecting the conduit. I'm connecting to the abundance that is my higher self above the space, above time, in outer space, in oneness, in presence, in the galaxy of peace and love and everything God has created. I'm one with it. And all my problems downstairs on earth, as I'm looking down there and I'm seeing myself stressed out and worried and fearful and worried about money and people and my future and my past, they don't exist. I offer it up to you. You must get out of yourself. You must get out of the time-bound thinking. You have to be in the present moment. You have to learn that that's the only place the growth is, the unknown, the now. If it's unknown to you, I ask you to find it, to search it out. If you read my book, Knowest, you're going to learn how to change your stars. You're going to learn how to connect to the present moment more consistently. The Knowest symbol, which is the cover of the book, is a series of prayers. It's a symbol to look at and to realize that there's more to life than just this turning and cogitating and ruminating and going through the steps and going through the motions and paying the bills and paying your taxes and doing your schedules. There's more to that. And you can change your stars in your life at any time you choose through your present moment awareness, through this moment now. That's where the growth is. It's the unknown. And it's scary when you get above yourself on the planet and you think, wow, this is crazy, but how do I do? How do I do things from up here? That was the biggest shock to me of all. Because when I was up there, I was thinking, I have nothing to do. I have only to be done. Many teachers have taught that. You have nothing to do. You have only to be done. And it's one of the prayers in the Now-ist symbol. I have nothing to do. I have only to be done. And there's a great power in that, because there's also a saying in the yoga tradition, karma yoga means actionless doing. Karma yoga is actionless doing. It's being done. It's having faith. It's living in the present moment and not attaching to so much the outcome. You detach from the outcome. You become one with the present moment. Once again, N-O-W spelled backwards is W-O-N. When you're in the now, you have won your presence back. Another word to say now is O-N-E, oneness. When you're in oneness, you're up there. You've gotten up there in the oneness of the detachment from the physical world. You're in space. You're out of time. As Meister Eckhart said, there's no greater obstacle to God than time. That's what keeps the light from reaching you. The light is up there. When you're up there above the planet and you feel the sun and you imagine yourself up there with the sun and the stars and the moon and all this blackness, you peace out. You literally peace out. You become one with all of that. And stress can't find you. Stress needs time to live. It has to have a past and a future. It has to have a problem. There's no problem in the now. There's just this moment. There's just oneness.